All right. Thank you, everyone. I'm very glad to be here today talking about driving in business innovation with FOSS, AI, crypto, and cloud technology leading the changes. Very glad to have such a diverse panel with me. It's an honor to be among these key personalities on the FOSS world. So we don't have much time, so I'll go ahead and start doing some introductions, and then we'll go into some of the topics that we want to discuss related to FOSS and how it helps and drives business innovation. So first I have Mr. Xiong Wei. He's Executive Director of openEuler. Is an accomplished figure in the tech industry, holding the position of Central Software Institute Server Operating System Chief Architect at Huawei's laboratory. Since joining Huawei in 2014, Xiong has played a pivotal role in the development of the openEuler project. He's a Doctor of Engineering from Nankai University. Xiong's academic background laid the foundation for his extensive career in operating system and underlying software. His tenure includes significant roles such as the Euler OS Chief Architect at Huawei Technologies, Senior Manager at WinDriver, and R&D Director at Tubulinus China. Let's give him a round of applause, please. All right, next we have Daniel Izquierdo, CEO of Bitergia. So Daniel Izquierdo is a researcher and one of the founders of Bitergia, a company that provides software analytics for open source and inner source ecosystem. Currently holding the position of Chief Executive Officer, he is focused on the quality of data research and the new metrics analytics and studies for the interest of Bitergia customers via data mining, app, and processing. Izquierdo Cortázar earned his PhD in free software engineering from the Universidad Rey Juan Carlos in Madrid. In 2012, focused on the analysis of buggy developers' activity patterns in the Mozilla community. He's an active and board member of Chaos, as well as an active member and president of the Inner Source Commons Foundation. So, please welcome. Next, we have Skyla. You guys might remember him from his previous talk. He's part of the Ethereum Foundation. He leads DevCon and DevConnect, two of the crypto ecosystem's most prominent events for developers and researchers. He has a degree on information systems from Carnegie Mellon University, where he discovered Bitcoin in 2013. In the years since, he has slowly transitioned from coding to advocacy in the Ethereum ecosystem and global digital systems. Yeah, thank you. And finally, we have Peter Membry. He's Chief Engineering Officer at ExpressVPN and has been in the company since 2016. He's the creator of Lightweight, a state-of-the-art open-source VPN protocol that protects millions of users every day with a focus on security and privacy. He's also one of the creators of Trusted Server, the VPN's industry's first true RAM-only server. He's also a chartered fellow of the British Computer Society, chartered IT professional, and a chartered engineer. He has a doctorate in engineering and master's degree specialization in information security. Thank you. All right, so we don't have much time, but I want to start by I want you guys to introduce a bit of what your projects are, so we can have many people in the audience might not be familiar with all of these projects. So I thought maybe the best way to start, if you guys can introduce what your projects are, what you guys are doing, what is your involvement, and how is FOSS related, how FOSS helps your project. If we can maybe start.
So I just give the keynote. So I think I do a lot of detailed explanation what openEuler is. So if I use two words to describe openEuler. First, openEuler is an operating system platform. So that is the first one. Second, we want to make openEuler to be the innovation community to create a more and more innovation project for the open source industry. So that is, I think, the two key features for openEuler.
So in my case, personally, my background is in academia, so computer science. We were producing tools to do research. You know, research, the basics of research is to be able to trace the data, where it comes from, and be able to reproduce the research. That's the basics of science. Then we founded Bitergia, and then we believed that we needed open source projects to analyze open source technology. This is what we are producing, which is Grimoire Lab. It's a Linux Foundation project. And the technology itself is a platform, full platform, data flow that you can take care of data gathering, forget about APIs, logs, or so. You just take the tool, you aggregate all of this into a database that you can later consume and produce insights, dashboards, visualizations. So then the company itself, we basically produce, do this for you, and then at the end we have a specific consultancy services on top of this, on metric strategy, OSPOS, inner source, etc., etc.
Cool. So yeah, I also just gave a keynote about Ethereum and crypto, which is the space I work in, and yeah, I think so. So what we're trying to create is a new type of computer, one that is verifiable, open to the entire world, and secure, and can last for a long time. And I think like FOSS values, being open source, are really important parts of us achieving that, right? Allowing anyone to be able to verify that it is working as intended, allowing anybody being able to read the code behind it, allowing anybody being able to contribute to the code and contribute to the community, are all important, very important parts of crypto and of Ethereum.
So, at ExpressVPN, we obviously develop VPN products that we're hoping will basically drive and power privacy and connectivity throughout the world. And a lot of the more classical solutions for this were developed in a very different age. They were developed when your main way of using the internet was a PC, and it was on a desk, and it had one connection, often dial-up, and if you were lucky, you'd have an Ethernet connection. So Lightweight is a reimagining of what a VPN can be, and it's designed for the modern world. So we focused on working well on mobile systems where we have like limited memory, limited battery, where you're constantly moving from Wi-Fi to cell. But what we wanted to do was ensure this was something that people could trust. And so Lightweight itself is open source, and all of the core security libraries themselves that Lightweight depends on for all of this security, they're all open source as well. So it's available for anybody who wants to use it.
All right. Thank you very much for your project's introduction, guys. I want to reiterate, it's very nice to have a diverse panels. We have the openEuler project with like all the being them pioneers on the open source movement in China, having this big ecosystem of many companies. Also having Bitergia bringing down the data point of view to many projects that are probably in much need of this analytics. And of course, the Ethereum ecosystem bringing like decentralization, which is something that I think that we need more in the internet these days. So thank you guys for your work there. And finally, with Peter from ExpressVPN, bringing the privacy and security, also very much needed, right? So yeah, very thankful for having you guys here. I want to start with a question. Like we talk about like all the benefits of open source, but what are the biggest challenges that you guys face? Like developing open source. I mean, sometimes when you're dealing with business, might be a challenge. Sometimes where you're managing communities. What like do you guys see as a biggest challenge when introducing open source into a certain business or developing your own one? Anyone?
I can go. We are running a small business, so we are a business of 15 people. We are started in Spain, and basically most of our customers came from the US. So we are in this corner of Europe, this country called Spain, and then we are providing the services, SaaS services in this case. And even more, we are providing the services based on purely open source. So basically what we were, the usual business model would be a subscription model. So then for our customers, it's mainly about they can take the technology, but they know that we do it faster, more reliable, cheaper, and then we are bringing all this accumulated knowledge from academia and then talking with customers over the last 20 years. So the thing of open source is that it's a great space. I don't know if you will agree with me, but I think it's a great space, great context to show capabilities. So this is the value that open source is bringing specifically. And because we came from the university, we were having a master on free software, so we were doing a lot of things on the field. This was a way of testing ourselves. Basically, what we were teaching is this really something that could happen? So open source for us meant a lot of visibility, meant a way of giving trust first to anyone that is willing to play with us, basically, and say, we have here the technology, so you can try it, you can play with that, and you decide if this is right for you or not. And then because we have all the expertise, then open source is a great place to expose all of this understanding and knowledge. So for instance, being here might be part of this strategy, is being part of FOSSASIA, thanks to all of you, and then you are listening about this. So basically open source is a great catalyst to move things forward. Do you agree?
Yeah. Okay, for openEuler, I think there are two challenges. The first challenge is openEuler has grown up to be a very huge community. We have got involved around 17,000 developers, and every day we have active developer around 4,000 developers. So it's huge. So how to maintain, how to manage the huge community, that is a very, very big challenge. So we try to do our best to make the community to be running smoothly and don't be any problem. I mean problem, operating system is very basic software. It cannot have any problem. So that is I think the first challenge. The second challenge is how to make our partners and our customers to get benefit from the community. They need to, the community and the release, the output should be valuable, right? For the partner and the customer. So how to make our customer and partner to get more and more profits, and also link with different companies. With Daniel, how to we benefit for each other. That is very, I think, challenging question for both all of the open source community.
Okay. So in the case of Ethereum, like Ethereum is a protocol, and all of the code is open source. The community is open source, but it's like the internet. So you can have projects that are built on top of it that are or are not open source. And I think one challenge we have is like most of the projects today are open source, and there's a lot of benefits to do it that way. But there are some projects that launch that are not open source, that are closed source. And I think our challenge is to educate users on why it's important that projects should use projects that are open source, namely for security, right? Like security, like if you're launching a project, like let's say a wallet, a crypto wallet, and it's closed source, they'll oftentimes try to say like there's security through obscurity. Like you can't understand what the code is, like you can't hack it, which is not true, and quite the opposite. Like if there is a wallet that is open source, people have seen the code, can have verified the code, and it's been around for a while, it's likely to be more secure than a wallet that is closed source. And I think our challenge is educating people to make sure that they are using wallets, using applications that are actually open source.
I think for ExpressVPN, we've benefited hugely from the open source community. When I talk about how we created Lightway, I start off by, people always say, well, why don't you like WireGuard? And we say, well, actually, no, WireGuard was the inspiration for this. WireGuard came along and showed everybody, like, VPNs could be fast, they could be cool, they could be modern. But at the same time, Lightway was grounded in OpenVPN. This is a project that's been around for over 20 years. And many people who grew up on VPNs and open source used OpenVPN. Why? It was open, it was secure, it was easy to understand, you could build on it. And in the case of ExpressVPN and many other businesses, large businesses have been built on this promise. The third thing I always talk about is Lightway is secured by Wolf SSL. It's an open source TLS library. So at Express, we don't touch any of the crypto because we're not cryptographers and it would be bad to touch it. So we're able to create this secure platform because we can leverage other open source. And lastly, the beauty of open source means that when we create Lightway, we can be we can basically focus on the things that we care about. We can be opinionated. So when we built Lightway, we designed it specifically to solve the problems that we were seeing. And for many people, they will have different challenges and Lightway won't be useful for them. But for others, it's a common use case and maybe this solves problems for them too. So in all of kind of like the pillars of Lightway and the project that we built, open source is through and through the only way it was possible and the only way that we could do something like this.
Great. Okay, so I want to do a bit of a topic change here now. I'm gonna maybe open the Pandora box on the buzzwords and you guys. I want to see your perspective on AI. So like you guys bring different points of view. You guys integrating AI into operating systems, which is pretty amazing. Giving data out there for many systems. Like how do you guys maybe enable projects to use this data for running their own analytics? Even like decentralizing. And how do you guys see AI? We had a talk recently about how all these chatbots, ChatGPT, and all those are or are not considered open source. How do you guys see FOSS enabling this AI within the systems in a business-oriented way that is still remaining open source? What can we consider open source, right? Like, because as we saw before, like sometimes you don't have the data, it's not open source, or how do you guys see FOSS enabling this AI trend that is happening? Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first again.
Yep.
So being not an expert in AI, that's first big disclaimer here. So my feeling is that, well, first of all, if you think about the last 20 years, so we've had certain waves. We've had a data science, we have data engineering, we've had cloud, we had blockchain, crypto, we've had now AI. So AI will go through this new wave, and then other things will happen. So I would say, first of all, this is a new trend. So there might be a bubble, as in other cases, and that's all right. So that's okay. Going to the specific question of the danger of AI, and from the open source perspective, and that this was this keynote this morning, part of the problem is basically that we don't have access to the data. So you may have access to the source code, but then what is this for? If you don't have the data to train the AI, and second, you don't have the power, cloud power or machinery power to run this, basically you cannot really use that AI software that is out there. So then the question probably is, what's the definition of, or the proper definition of open source AI? That we had a discussion before, and the OSI, the open source initiative, they are running with Stefano Maffuli as executive director of the OSI. They are running this podcast, and now they are trying to define what open source AI means. So I think that the two main dangers are this one: the lack of power computing, because basically only large corporations or big governments can afford this, and the other is basically have the right data to train all of this. So how to make all two these things open or accessible? That's the risk.
Okay, so for AI, definitely it will change the world greatly. For operating system, it's a very traditional area, right? But you can see I do some show the AI can change the operating system interaction very greatly. So definitely it will change a lot. But the problem is, for example, the Euler Copilot, we have to do a very nice project. But the problem is we can open source the code. But what about the data set? Because some of the data set is not included by, not owned by the project or even by our openEuler or foundation. So we can use it to do the training, but should we release or open source the data set? That is a very, sensitive and important question for all of the AI open source. So basically, for my idea, I think for the open source around AI, I support that we can open source the framework. For example, the training of framework, a lot of the infrastructure, that is okay. But for the data set, I think we can keep some of that set to be private, to allow the customer or the developer or the companies to get some useful, business-friendly use case for them to extend their business. So I think this should be combined, the private, some of the private data set and the open source framework. That may be a good way. I'm not sure. I just give the proposal for discuss.
So from the crypto perspective, I think there's a lot of ideas around how crypto and AI interact. Like maybe a lot of people here have seen a lot of like crypto AI tokens. I think all of those are bullshit. So I'd be careful with those. I think one thing that's cool about crypto is you can kind of like program. You can create you can use incentives. And like you can program incentives natively. Like there is value inherent in crypto, and you can use crypto to program these incentives and sort of program interesting applications of those, or like program in game theory to some degree. And I think the most interesting application of AI x crypto, AI interactions with crypto, is like AI becoming maybe like agents within crypto applications. So in the case of maybe like prediction markets, where you're trying to predict something in the future, maybe you can have AI as agents that are participating in these prediction markets instead of humans. And like, yeah, I think ideally we all want open source AI. Will we get that? I'm not sure. But even if we don't, maybe there's some way where we can use crypto to sort of be like the guardrails of AI and sort of program incentives that we would like to see come out of these. So yeah, I think that those are kind of interesting, much more than the tokens.
I think AI is one of those technologies, like any powerful technology. You can do great and amazing things, but the power that gives you can cut both ways, and it can be used for bad things as well. It's just the nature of the beast. And the problem with it from a privacy perspective is, and we saw this a bit with ChatGPT, where a lot of private information got leaked, where you could trick the model into telling you things that in theory it shouldn't even know. And people then started complaining and being concerned that, hang on, this thing is taking my conversations and doing stuff with it. The thing is, in order to make these models better and more powerful, they need data from somewhere. So someone needs to feed these things data. So is it going to be my data? Is it going to be your data? Whose data is it going to be? It's got to come from somewhere. And it's a bit like the old thing with nuclear power stations. Everybody wants, well, not everybody, a lot of people want nuclear power. No one wants it next to them. And so this is going to be the problem, I think, with AI. In theory, everybody wants it to be open. Everybody wants the data to be there so that everybody can understand and it can be equitable. But at the same time, those same people aren't necessarily willing to contribute all of their kind of personal information into this and trust it. So I think we'll see over probably the next year or so a very interesting twist in where this data comes from, how it's managed, how you protect it. because there's going to be a lot of conversations that you don't mind if AI has access to it, and you're willing to contribute it. But there's certain things that you might want to keep out of that conversation. And so I think we'll see more fine-grained controls or concepts or ideas of how we can give the general stuff to AI, but certain things that we can withhold, and how we can do that in a general way to kind of protect our privacy, but still allow these models to evolve. Otherwise, we're going to get to a point where the models effectively stop evolving, and that's not going to help anyone. But at the same time, private data, once it's out there, you can never claim it back. So I think it's going to be a very interesting space, especially over the next year or so, as governments try to regulate and try to understand this new thing that they've created, and how it's going to impact and play with the world.
Yeah, so that brings a very interesting point, the point of data, right? Like, where do you guys see, like following on this topic, where do you guys see data? So there's this perspective where data should be kept private, it should be kept open. Where do you guys see this regulation coming from? Should it be like governments coming from these regulations, agencies, like should communities be the ones like bringing up this openness or not, right? Like is there a right for privacy there? Like certain data, like if it's medical data, right? That is a key point where I know, for example, in the blockchain ecosystem, everything happens in a very decentralized way. Like decisions are made in a very decentralized way, right? So there's no government decision or thing. So I think like we have like a very good different perspectives here. So if you guys can add some on how do you guys think? It's not an easy topic, but I think that's why it's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe starting off with the blockchain and more so the crypto perspective. Like there's one type of one cryptographic primitive that's become more popular recently called zero knowledge proofs, which I think are quite interesting. And like essentially what this primitive allows you to do is it allows you to prove that something is true without revealing why it is true or what exactly is true. And so with this, you can like this is what we're starting to use within the crypto industry to create private applications, like private applications that are simultaneously like verifiable that they're done correctly and public, but without revealing like the data inputs that were provided into them. And so this concept, this primitive of zero knowledge proofs turns out to be really powerful for creating like private like data privacy while still allowing you to do different functionality with it. And I think like the next iteration of this is probably going to be like FHE, fully homomorphic encryption. MPC also plays a role here a little bit, but I think zero knowledge proofs are the most interesting for me right now. And I know in Vietnam, actually, there's a big community of zero knowledge proofs, like a lot of people who are working and developing and researching on zero knowledge proofs here.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Yeah, zero knowledge.
So just to mention, probably we have here Harris PI from the Verify AI Foundation. So I may suggest that probably if you would like to learn more about the ethics of AI, you talk to them. So they are working on this problem specifically. Then regarding to the data, we've seen specifically that there is now friction between what AI companies are gathering and scrapping from the web, and the copyright issues on how they are using that information then to expose. So basically, it seems that by using certain, for instance, I'm not sure about ChatGPT, but these chatbots, and you exposing that information, you might be breaking somehow the copyright because you don't know where basically that's coming from, and because Gen AI is building on top of this existing knowledge, that's part of the problem in somehow. So there are two things here. It's part of the data itself. So basically, what's the data that you are using to train? But then if you have the rights to use the data, basically to do that training of the AI, which is the other point. Going to Xiong Wei comments before, I totally agree with you that there should be first probably something public and accessible to everyone in terms of data for the data training. And then, of course, you can improve or have a very customized version for you within your company with your own data, which is, of course, or must remain private because it's your data. But from a public perspective, if this is using first public data, and second, public knowledge, and going to the discussion of open source, then probably all this flow should be open and available to everyone out there. So,
yeah, so I think part of the challenge is, and this happens a lot with technology, it's not so much the technology problem, it's the human element when you add it to the technology problem. We'll see this now, and we've seen this with copyright law around the world. We've seen it with patent laws. Like, everyone does everything a bit differently. Everybody has different ideas and opinions of how it should work. These things effectively clash. But it really comes down to how we use the technology and what we want from it. And the irony is, yes, in terms of, say, doing AI for, say, like you said, with medical stuff, we want that to be anonymous and as protected as possible. But the power that you get from AI is by having that detail, by having that knowledge. And you don't necessarily know in advance what details are going to be important. So there was a recent success with a AI model looking for cancer, and the fact that it could detect it reliably something like a year earlier than highly trained doctors. But they were only able to do that because a lot of people gave very detailed knowledge into this system. And if we change it, or we try to do the right thing, for example, by saying, no, that's not allowed anymore, you can't do that, then potentially we limit how useful these things can be. But it's a really complicated question. Anytime you get humans involved with technology, it then becomes about culture, it becomes about perception, it becomes about potentially even ideology. All of that kind of comes into play. So we often see very powerful technologies that are used very differently for different purposes. I mean, blockchain is a classic example of that. But blockchain itself is agnostic. It's powerful and you can do amazing things, but it's up to the people that use it to drive it and push it in those directions. And I think that's where this is going to get interesting, as everybody has different ideas of what it should be and how it should work. And those ideas kind of come together to hopefully solve some of the problems. But there's always going to be different opinions on different ends of the spectrum. So I think we'll always see at least two or more sides of this situation, and there'll be kind of like a bit of a meeting in the middle. But it's definitely not a black and white sort of question. It's always going to be a matter of a lot of different shades of gray in this sort of technology.
All right. Oh, okay. Okay, so I think we're running out of time. I just want to close then. I have so many questions. I am not able to ask all of them. I would like to invite everyone to approach your speakers, their booths outside. Can talk to them, ask them more questions if you want. So I want to close down with just one last question. Where do you see your project going forward through FOSS, and how it empowers business into the future? So we talk about AI, like it's like the next thing coming. Blockchain is also one of the next thing coming. Cloud, openEuler, very involved in cloud. How do you guys see your from your own perspective, from your own project? How do you guys are empowering the business, and how FOSS is helping into it? And then also, if you guys want to give a bit of a shout out, if you guys have some other talks today, tomorrow, for people to engage with your projects, that's also the time to do it. Yeah.
Okay, let me first. So for openEuler, I think the direction is very clear. The first one is AI, because AI is changing a lot of things. So you can see we put a lot of effort on AI to develop the Euler Copilot. So that is the first direction we must to follow the AI wave. And secondly, I think another very important thing is driven by AI. The computer architecture is doing the dramatic changing now. For example, we have only CPU before, but now we have DPU, GPU, XPU, TPU, a lot of kind of PU, right? The chipset has become more and more complicated. And so when more and more chipset get involved, and then the connection will change a lot. For example, when we use the traditional PCIe to connect all of the components of the computer, but now we have CXL, right? We have UCIe. The internal connection between the chipset has changed a lot. So you can imagine when everything here has changed, so the operating system also has a lot of change, should be changed. So openEuler will continue to do the exploration on top of the change of computing architecture. So that's the second direction. The third direction is we will continue to make the narrow the gap between the embedded and the edge to server and cloud. We want to make a unified platform or interface for all of kind of scenario. So make every chipset and application developer can easily to move their chipset and migrate their chipset and application around all of the scenario. So that's the third, I think, direction. For the last direction, I want to do is to provide innovation places or community to help the new guys or new ideas to change our traditional operating system or basic software, the system software industry, to bring some new to the traditional industry area. So I think that is our targets.
On my side, quickly on, part of the project that we are developing, remember, open source project to analyze open source. Basically, it's part of the Chaos community that stands for Community Health Analytics for Open Source Software. So if you are willing to adopt a certain technology, some of the ones we've been discussing today here or others, you should be interested in understanding the risk, the value of adopting that technology at some point. So in Chaos, we are discussing about this from two perspectives, a more metrics definition, without having in mind technology. So we are just defining metrics, KPIs, frameworks, metrics models. And then the second branch of the community is basically on developing software to support all of these definitions. So just in case you are interested, so you can go to chaos.community with ss, or at 3 p.m. Close to our booth, in the Bitergia booth, we are running a small Chaos meeting just to get to know each other in the area. So if you want to learn more, please come by, and then we can say hello, and then we can give you more pointers. So yeah, this is it.
Cool. What am I excited about for Ethereum in the future, and how does FOSS enable that? I would say permissionless innovation. So like the ability for anyone to build on top of Ethereum and make it better. So one topic we have in Ethereum right now are rollups, are layer 2s. One example of those is Arbitrum, who's here, but there's also Optimism and Base and Polygon and a bunch of others. And the cool thing is that they can all, like, because it's open and anyone can build on top of Ethereum, like they are building and innovating and improving Ethereum, making it cheaper, making it faster for all of the users to use and the developers to build on top of. So yeah, that's what I'm excited for. And yeah, you can come visit and learn more about that at the booth that we have here, or tomorrow we have a builder day for developers who want to learn how to develop on Ethereum.
So where do I see Lightweight going? I mean, I think for us, it's a traditional open source, process. We'll keep doing what we've been doing. It's worked well. But I basically grew up my entire life on open source software. I owe my career to open source. And so one of the things that, I remember when I first started using it, it was, shall we say, challenging. And what we have now with these new technologies, with blockchain, with OpenAI, the way we're coming together for like standards, 5-10 years ago, that wasn't a thing. And so where will this go in 5-10 years? I honestly have no idea. I expect we'll see a lot of convergence among all these key technologies as they become more stable, more standardized, more understood. I think we'll see them working together in interesting ways. So a lot of my stuff is on like the privacy side. We have metrics, we have blockchain, and AI. These aren't really independent things, and I think we'll see them getting closer, and you'll see crossovers. There's cool stuff you could do with VPNs and blockchain. There's cool stuff you could do with that and AI. So yeah, I don't really know where it's going to go. I think it's going to be interesting. Next 2 years is going to be very interesting. And if you guys are interested, I'm doing a talk tomorrow afternoon on the post-quantum protections that we've added to Lightway, how those work, and why, even though we don't yet have, as far as we know, working quantum computers that are a threat, why it's something we need to address today.
All right. Yeah. So I would like to invite everyone to visit booths, to go to the talks, ask some questions in the coffee breaks. And yeah, thank you very much, Xiong Wei, Daniel, Skyla, Peter. Thank you very much.